Good morning, CUBE community, and welcome back to beautiful Barcelona, Spain. We're here kicking off day 2 of our 4 days of coverage at Mobile World Congress. My name's Savannah Peterson, joined by my favorite co-pilot, Dave Vellante. Dave?
Day 2?
I know.
It feels like day 4.
I know. Well, we've had so many interesting conversations. We've learned so much, and there's, frankly, it's unfortunate our guests can't see, or our audience can't see this. There's so many cool things going on the show floor here. I know we were talking about the IBM booth last night. We were talking about their connected ping pong, the foosball. I mean, there's play here as much as there is very serious stuff going on.
Yeah, it is an amazing event. I took a picture from up on high of the venue, and you can see all the halls.
Oh, I need to do that.
It's huge. I'd say over 100,000 people are here, but
yeah,
anyway.
I mean, it feels like that. Certainly swimming upstream as a salmon. But we've got one of the cooler of those 100,000 people here with us right now. Mohamad, thank you so much for taking the time this morning.
Thank you so much for having me here.
I'm really excited about our chat. We've gotten to have 2 lovely folks that are partners of yours. We had Ian and
fabulous client.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Harrison was absolutely fantastic. He closed us out last night. And then we also got to talk about football. We had the Sevilla Football Club. I'm super hyped on that AI in sports narrative. It really feels like there's IBM magic fairy dust all over
sports in particular.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite application that's here showing off of IBM and your partnership?
Well, I think you mentioned a couple. We also have a partnership with Samsung where we are deploying an entire new emergency services network for the government of the United Kingdom. So fire, police, ambulance, aircrafts, vehicles, personal devices. And it was announced publicly. It's a $1.7 billion deal.
Amazing.
And with our partner, we're rebuilding the entire infrastructure. And as part of this, like most of the things that you're seeing here, there's a ton of technology packed into this solution. And I think the Samsung team's demoing part of it.
We had Ruth on last year.
Oh,
and
Ruth's great.
That's how we met Samsung. You remember, I think you and I did that together. And then we were hanging out with them in the evenings.
Yeah.
And you could see the partnership sort of developing and evolving. And so now you've really starting to hit that steep part of the S-curve. Congratulations, that's amazing.
They're a great company.
Just to dig in there for a second, because that sounds like an awesome project, and we were talking with Sri from H2OAI yesterday about disaster prevention and fires in California. Yeah. What's the overall end goal of that project? Is it to make the citizens of the UK safer?
Faster response.
Oh, okay.
So today something happens, a lot of stuff has to happen behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Tomorrow the responder will have all the data that they need to show up, to take the right actions, and it'll be on a dedicated network. So a disaster could be happening elsewhere, they'll be protected, they'll be able to communicate, they'll be able to get their jobs done.
That's a really interesting advantage.
So let's talk a little bit about what you're seeing here. You know, AI, this is going to be the AI show. Every show is an AI show.
An AI show.
And I was at One Madison, I saw you in the hallway, a month ago, a couple weeks ago actually, and I sat down with a number of your team members, and the big discussion that we were having is, okay, we've done a lot of experimentation in the cloud. We've thrown a bunch of use cases at the wall, and now we're prioritizing those use cases, and we really want to drive substantial business value for our organization. And so we talked a lot about what that takes. You can't just say, okay, throw Gen AI at the problem. You got a data asset, you have to govern it, you've got all this talk about agents, you've got skill sets, and a lot of that data lives on-prem. So they want to bring the AI to data. So what are you seeing there? What are some of the challenges that you're helping your customers attack?
Yeah, so it seems like everybody's investing in AI, right? And the data says that 89% of the people we surveyed are either maintaining or increasing their investment in AI. But just spending on the technology isn't sufficient. You also have to invest in people training, you have to invest in culture, and you have to invest in governance. And these are not something that you naturally think about at the beginning of the process. At IBM Consulting and IBM in general, we've been really thinking about the people aspect of this. And the term we've been using is, how do you make this sticky in an organization? And so, and we're not the only ones realizing this. 64% of CEOs now say that it's not the technology that's going to make this successful, it's the people that are going to make this successful. And so, within IBM, we've built a variety of capabilities to get people involved in both creating the Gen AI tools and using the Gen AI tools. Dave, I think you know this, in consulting we have 160,000 consultants, and in order to bring them along, we built a platform called IBM Consulting Advantage, because there's a lot of great technology, we're all over it, it's working actually quite well in many areas, but the next component of that, the most important component of that, are the people, and enabling the people to use this technology for their benefit.
I want to follow up on IBM Consulting Advantage.
Yeah.
It was kind of a circuitous way to ask this question. So we just wrote a research note comparing, it was the war of words between Nadella and Benioff. You know, Benioff calls Copilot Clippy.
Yes, we've heard. Yes.
Nadella says, oh, in the future it's just going to be agents talking to CRUD databases.
Right,
We're not going to need SaaS.
Yes.
So we dug into it, and what we found, and I'm going back to the talk that you gave last year at the Analyst Summit, when you talked about we're putting certain software assets into the consulting group, and we're actually building assets that are fungible and scalable.
Right.
Okay, so the big takeaway from that research that we just did is, no longer is just data an asset, but processes are increasingly becoming an asset.
Right.
And I wonder how you think about that in the context of IBM Consulting Advantage. Not just data, it's processes are now building blocks that are fungible and malleable to actually create sort of the new future of what enterprise software and enterprise systems look like, digital twins essentially of a business. What are your thoughts on that, and how do you participate?
Yeah, so great question, because the process is very important, right? So you could take AI and you could lay it on top of the existing process that you have, and you'll get certain benefits. We have done that actually at scale in one call center that was taking about 40 million calls. We've applied AI onto that process, and now we're handling about 4 million automatically, and the NPS has gone up. So that's wonderful. We're using technologies from IBM Consulting Advantage in order to do that. The next phase of this is redesigning the process. And if you can redesign the process, you can make it sort of AI native, kind of like cloud native. Now it's AI native, right? And we're doing that at Riyadh Air, where there's a set of airline processes that airlines have used for decades. Now, we just announced at FII in Miami a couple of weeks ago, big ceremony there, big event there, that we're going to be deploying AI natively within that whole airline process. And it's an opportunity to redefine the experience, build more compelling experiences for customers who are going to use their app, use their reservation, use their aircraft, right?
I mean, sitting here as frequent flyers, that sounds like quite the value add.
It's a huge value add. I mean, think about how convoluted it is to buy an airline ticket today. So they're actually going from buying the airline ticket, sort of like the train ticket way, to the Amazon basket sort of way, right? And so that gives you a lot of opportunity to embed AI into a new type of process. And IBM, and at Riyadh Air, we are actually using IBM Consulting Advantage to both deploy that new type of process, but also enable our delivery team members to deliver with AI. It's actually like an amazing use case at that client.
So the takeaway there is, and you and I have probably talked about this before, you're not paving the cow path, I like to call it, you're really reimagining the processes. You mentioned AI native, kind of an analogy, analogous to cloud native. Cloud native, to really take advantage of cloud, you had to change the operating model.
That's right.
And what you're talking about is really changing the business's operating model, and that's how you get 10x leverage.
Right.
And so, there's a little bit of truth in what Nadella says. You're going to have agents, talking, you're going to talk to agents in human language, and there's certainly a lot of truth in what Benioff is saying, in that you got to have connections to back-end systems, but you have to rethink the processes. You're not going to hard code these into microservices. That's a different way of thinking about enterprises, isn't it?
It is a different way, and in some ways they're both right.
Yeah,
actually,
absolutely.
Because in one way you have a CRM process and you're overlaying Agent Force on top of it, and it's actually working quite well. And what Satya Nadella is saying is, well, you can decompose all the software in between into these agents, and it effectively just all become agents and assistants, right? And by doing that, you can then take the agents and assistants and attach them to human beings, and you now have a whole new process that's defined by humans plus agents. And there'll be scenarios like that. We are encountering both scenarios, and different clients are at different stages in what they do. But it's kind of interesting to see Benioff and Nadella establish sort of this spectrum of possibilities.
Well, and I think what it underscores is I don't even know if we can call it enterprise software anymore. It's just that the way in which businesses operate is changing.
It's business operations
right?
almost.
And of course, and of course, none of this just happens without skills.
Right.
And this is where you guys come in. So, I want to come back to what you talked about at Summit and how your organization generally, and IBM specifically, is evolving to sort of meet some of these future needs, and what role you see your organization playing in the future.
Yeah, I mean, an organization like IBM and then IBM Consulting, I think is actually pretty important, whether it's us or other companies that look like us, to clients being able to adopt and get the most out of these technologies, because it's just moving too fast for most clients to keep up. So as you know, Dave, IBM has been building a set of technologies under the Watson X brand. Watson X is a catalog that allows you to use a wide variety of IBM models and non-IBM models. IBM's also been creating agentic frameworks and so forth. So that's the technology stack. You get that from IBM, you get that from others. At IBM Consulting, we're now taking those technology stack and helping clients utilize that. But as I said in the beginning, the people part of this, the change management part of this, the process decomposition and the reintegrating of the process is absolutely essential, right? So as you go to like agentic frameworks, gee, you go to a CIO and the CIO says, what am I going to do with this? It requires an organization like IBM Consulting to come and help decompose that process, determine how to integrate the Gen AI. And you might have seen this a couple of weeks ago. We announced a new service that IBM Consulting is offering. We offer 38 services, and this is our newest of those services. It's called IBM AI Integration Services, and it's not just technical integration, it's also people integration.
So that's actually quite awesome, because you're so community focused is what I'm hearing when you say that. It's not just about ticking these boxes or right. the quote unquote digital transformation that's happening. It's truly about empowering people to do better work, more purposeful work. I'm not surprised. I'm just looking at the numbers here in our notes. You've had an incredible adoption curve on the IBM Consulting platform. 85,000 users already, 2,000 assistant agents, 60 industry domain-specific applications, which I just want to call out specifically because that goes to say, as I was saying, your magic fairy dust is kind of all over here at MWC. Right. It's because you touch so many different things. How do you distill the curriculum, so to speak, or the toolkits you're rolling out across these different verticals? I mean, what is that process like for building out that material? You've obviously done this super fast in this AI revolution. We're really only about 2.5 years in.
We've actually used sort of an inner source model. We've gotten our 160,000 consultants to be creators, because they're actually the doers, right? They're the ones that are writing the code, designing the specs, et cetera. Well, if you are doing that, why are you not the ones that help create these assistants, these agents, et cetera, these assets, these pre-built applications?
Yeah.
And we've said to them, here's a platform, go build whatever you want. And they've built thousands of these things, and now we've curated them down to about 2,000 assistants and agents that we consider production ready, right? But one of you talk about community, making this a community activity, whether it's at IBM Consulting or it's our client E&, or L'Oreal or Riyadh Air, getting the employee base engaged in being creators of this new way of working is actually absolutely essential to getting the AI to work.
Well, and that's how we empower people to take advantage of these new tools. And the fact that you just said that, because I mean, I've been a consultant for many years, the notion of a team empowering consultants to be creators is novel. I would call that innovative, quite frankly. And I can imagine, does that stoke the enthusiasm internally? Do you feel like the team's really excited?
They love it. They build these things and then they want them to be successful, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it feels like more of an investment Yeah.
Imagine
wow.
if you're a healthcare company and you say to your call center folks, here's some new tools. They might accept it, they might resist it, right? But if you say, hey, call center, why don't you help create these new tools? They're going to love those new tools, right? And they're going to embrace those new tools. And that's a part of the human side of making this work.
Absolutely.
So, and you guys am I correct that you guys are customer zero?
We are.
Okay.
We love being customer zero.
So that sort of ties into what you guys were just talking about. Could you share with us some of the learnings, particularly around these agentic initiatives that you have, some of the learnings that you have internally and how you're bringing that to market? I mean, I'm thinking you got a data problem, everybody has it, you had to solve that. You've got to connect to back-end systems, you've got to have a governance in place. You know, this just doesn't happen, you know, it takes hard work. What have you learned and how are you taking those learnings and pointing them at your customers?
Yeah, now we happen to be lucky in that, you know, we have a whole technology business, a whole product business within IBM, and we can use some of those things and get a fast start. So you mentioned governance. We have a product called watsonx.governance, so we utilize that. We have something called watsonx.data that allows us to put the data in the right form and vectorize it so that the AI can use it. And then there's watsonx.ai, which is a catalog of our models and other companies' models that we can mix and match to get the most efficient thing. But there's a fourth product that I'm going to mention, which was very important to our client zero experience, and it was to integrate all these disparate systems that we have. And so just an example, it turned out we had 63 HR systems, I don't think we even knew it, and we used a product called Orchestrate to plug them all into this one layer. And then on top of that, we were able to build the AI components that sat on top of Orchestrate that talked to the 63 systems. So there's some ways to layer AI on top of existing systems very quickly. And by doing that, now 95% of what we call transactional HR, this is like Dave transferring an employee, can be done through this AI interface. And so we've seen massive efficiency in just that one area.
You didn't have to rip and replace systems.
And you got it all out of silos. I mean, that's the whole point. You're getting this observability and visibility across the org, and I mean, shoot, nothing more important than your people when we're talking about HR and making sure that that's a smooth process, whatever that might be. Right. That's super cool. I can imagine.
You probably learned some things too. Maybe you can rationalize those by actually doing that inventory, right? So,
we learned a lot of what we had, right?
You get fast ROI, and you can keep turning the crank.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you discover what you don't know. I mean, I think one of the ROIs of AI that we don't talk about a lot is when we connect these systems in a uniform UI that makes sense and is intuitive, you actually learn what's going on in the business. Right. People have been over in their little, BU doing whatever it is they're doing, and it's really this unification. You get to see so much cool stuff. So I'm going to ask you, take off your IBM Consulting hat for 2 seconds. What gets you most excited for our AI future?
Well, you're right. I mean, I'm lucky I get to see a lot of
No, exactly.
You get to see a lot of cool stuff too, right? So, I would say that there are a lot of technologies that sort of come and go. The metaverse, like, is it going to happen? Remember Second Life? I mean, we all invested in that and we're still not there, right? But AI is here. I mean, I feel like AI is like cloud. It is here, it's like mobile, right? It's here, it's going to happen, and it's really going to change society in some remarkable ways. And that's one of the reasons I came back to IBM about 18 months ago, because IBM is the kind of responsible company that for 100 years has taken technology and tried to do the best we can with delivering value and betterment to society with that technology. Now, having said that, there are tremendous opportunity for misuse of this technology, and it's a big part of why I feel like we all need to be part of this. We need to drive strong governance, ethical standards on the use of technology, of this technology, because it actually has tremendous ability to change how you and I live, more than anything we've seen in our lifetime, and that excites me.
I kind of got chills up the back of my arms as you were saying that. No, I totally agree.
It's probably a great topic to end on, but I don't want to end.
Yeah, you don't want to end.
Here, we got a little bit more time. I want to come back to a client zero question.
Yeah.
You saw the DeepSeek noise,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And it's great. We love it.
And it actually validates IBM's approach of using a mixture of small and large models to get things done.
Totally, and that's what was our first reaction. So wow, IBM Granite is kind of the same messaging.
Right, Granite 3.1,
really,
yep.
So I'm curious as to your thoughts. I mean, virtually everybody that I talk to in the technology business says this is a good thing. Jevons Law, I think
absolutely.
Nadella was right about that. I think Wall Street got it wrong, at least their initial reaction.
Agree with that.
And so, as customer zero, how do you think about it? You mentioned Granite, or I mentioned Granite, but you talk about validation. How are you must have been on that curve, applying those smaller language models internally.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could talk about that and share with our audience kind of, again, what you've learned there. I mean, I think if you were a Chinese company, you probably would have got a lot more press on what you guys did, but it really does validate what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, you've said it, Dave, right? So IBM's been building this series of small models. They're under the name Granite. There's a variety of them. The latest one is Granite 3.1, and it performs extraordinarily well at much lower costs. So we are also internal users of LLMs. And at IBM Consulting, as we were building Consulting Advantage, we needed to consume a lot of LLMs. And so naturally, we just started with the large LLMs. And one of the things that we saw was that it became much more expensive as the 85,000 people came on board. And we're just pounding at this thing, right? And so we started adjusting for smaller models that had the same efficacy. So you ask it 100 questions to the large models, the small model you ask 100 questions, gets it all 100% right, is probably a good model. And so now 38% of all of our workload, we have a pie chart of all the models we use, have moved to Granite 3.1. It still means that 62% of our models, our consumption is non-IBM models, right? Because I think we're going to be in a world where you're going to have to mix and match, and that's what we're seeing on a real life basis. There are also some other models, especially for Mobile World Congress here, like the time series model. It's a 6 million parameter model. It's technically a small model, but it is the best time series model on the market, right? So for different problems, use different models, and
IoT.
I expect that most solutions are going to be a multiplicity of models.
I mean, that's an IoT, that's perfect for an IoT situation or an Industry 4.0, manufacturing 4.0.
I think there's actually less scenarios than most people think at the beginning because of we ended up in this GPT moment that we had, everyone thinks, oh, it's got to be an LLM, that's the future. And we've heard a lot this week, it's going to be the small models that most people end up interacting with in their work environments, in their factory, at the edge, supply chain. Like, there's so many different things here. I'm really glad we brought that up.
It's a power law.
Yeah.
It's a power law. Why is it important? Now look at people will say, oh, people open source models because they're behind. Oh, okay, sometimes that's true, and often that's true, but there's more to it than that. Why is it important as an executive that manages hundreds of thousands of practitioners? Why is open source important to you and your organization and your customers?
Well, open source has shown itself to be extraordinarily valuable to the business community and extremely enduring, right? Linux has been around for a long time and it continues to power many, many things out there, and it's very, very cost efficient. Hybrid cloud, right? Red Hat and Red Hat virtualization. It's another enduring platform. While we're seeing other virtualization technologies, change over time, I won't mention any specific, right? But I expect that Red Hat virtualization, open source virtualization, will endure. And you see it, not just from IBM, but from the hyperscalers. It's some version of open source virtualization. And similarly, with AI and models, open source will evolve. There are thousands, if not millions, of contributors to open source technology.
Well, it's all about the community, like we were talking about.
That's right, and it's about the community. And I think ultimately it's going to be more secure because more people can look and see where the potential problems are and fix them before it becomes a problem.
I think I think I couldn't agree with you more, and I'm glad you brought that up. I think it's going to be more secure, and I think it's going to be safer, to our earlier conversation about what AI is going to do for the world. The more great minds we have looking at and working on and tooling things, the better off we'll be. The water level rises together in open source, and I think it's one of the instances in technology where it really is unique, where more creative minds and diversity really shines too.
But I do want to underscore this with that.
Yeah.
It's our clients need a variety of technologies, right? They need open source technologies, they need closed source technologies, they need technologies from our partners like SAP, AWS, Microsoft, Salesforce, Palo Alto, and that has become our new strategy since Arvind's taken over, right? This ecosystem, this community, once again, of products.
Yeah.
I love it. But staying on open source for a minute, I mean, props to IBM because you guys really have leaned into open source. I think a lot of people don't realize this. I mean, I remember when Steve Mills said, we're going to invest $1 billion in Linux. Back when $1 billion was a lot of money.
Right.
And and people don't realize
now you need $1 trillion.
That's right.
I literally was just thinking that.
But at the time, Microsoft was the dominant player. I mean, they were the monopoly of all monopolies, and they had really the business and Linux is what actually moderated that monopoly, and it became the lamp stack, and it powered the internet, and so people don't really remember that. I give a lot of props to Granite, because while DeepSeek gets a lot of high marks for being open, I would say Granite's even more open. It's Apache 2.0. I think they're even more open than DeepSeek, which again is like top of the open charts.
I agree with that.
But the point is that if people don't realize this, IBM for decades now has embraced open, and it's a complement to all those other solutions, and that's where IBM Consulting comes in. As I think you called it an enduring business. That's a phrase that Arvind used early on.
And Dave, if you think about it, that open source is actually power of the cloud. If you think of things like Kubernetes and so forth, it's in all of the clouds, right? Open source is actually an essential part of even the proprietary systems we use today.
Yeah, MySQL actually has been leveraged extensively by some of the cloud players, so awesome conversation.
Wow, this has been so cool. Okay, last question for you, because you're at the apex of all of this, and it's fun to look back on a year from now. When we're hanging out at Mobile World Congress 2026, what do you hope to be able to say then that you can't yet say today?
So I think Dave knows this, right? So we're building a new type of consulting business, one that has 160,000 consultants plus 1.6 million digital workers. IBM Consulting Advantage is the path to enable us to do that. At that point, I'd like to be able to say we're at that point, or we're close to that point, or we've delivered the key milestones, and that we are benefiting our clients with this powerful new type of consultant, where it's Dave the consultant plus his 10 agents that are going into Riyadh Air or E&, or L'Oreal and helping them do amazing things. That's what I'd like to be able to talk about.
Well, we look forward to talking about it with you. Mohamad, this has been an absolutely fantastic 25 minutes. Thank you.
It's been so much fun.
I know.
Great to see you. We'll see you at Think in May. In Boston, I presume you'll be there, right?
Think May, Boston it is.
We'll be there as well, so looking forward to it. If we don't see you before, maybe in New York. So
great.
It'll be great.
Thank you, Mohamad, thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. And thank all of you for tuning in. We're here in Barcelona, Spain at Mobile World Congress, day 2 of our live coverage here on theCUBE. My name is Savannah Peterson. You're watching theCUBE, the leading source for enterprise tech news.